know you're not less of a man because you struggle. You're not a man because you don't got your shit together. We all don't got our shit together.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
Hey.
For a second time, welcome back.
For a second time.
TunetheFork.
Episode 5.
Yes, sir.
I am James.
Life.
And we are here to talk about what is a man.
Yep. First, thank you everybody for all the love and all the support for our last podcast. We moving along, man. We're enjoying it. We're getting a lot from it. I hope you guys are getting something from it too.
Yeah, man, and the feedback has been extremely positive.
Yep.
And for me personally, I've just been learning a lot about myself and just you, man, as an individual, and just learning how to be a better listener. Because some of the skills that we, demonstrate and we work on to do this podcast, we don't necessarily do that in other areas. And so a lot of what I think I'm learning is just taking some of those skills that we're honing and crafting in here out into the world to be a better service to people, man.
Yeah. So we just what we talk about in the podcast, how just talking out loud about it, and then seeing it, through the process, editing and all that, it kind of helps bring home what those messages are. So a lot of the things that we say, a lot of the little gems that we that end up in the podcast, something that I start to better internalize and then use as a tool in my toolkit, man. Like we're talking about. So
yeah,
hope you guys can get the same thing from it, man.
So what brought this topic on was me listening to another YouTube channel of a guy who every single one of his guests that come on, he asked a question.
Right.
What is a man?
Right.
And when I first saw the guy ask the question, I thought to myself, well, first when I saw the person try to answer it, who he asked, I was looking and I was like, damn, he's really fucking up this answer. Because he did a really bad job. And as I started to answer it myself, dude, I was like, I'm doing a shitty job.
It's hard, man. That's a tough question to answer.
Because it's something that I really walk around holding and identifying with.
Right.
But I haven't actually stopped to really analyze it in a way.
Right. And to do it, it gotta be quantified and qualified and measured, and there has to be a what's not a man. I mean, in order for, all those things to exist, it's tough.
So I actually went out and polled a few of the homies, some family, some friends, and the ages ranged from like around 19 to like 55.
Yeah.
And just wanted to get a feel from them on what their definition was, just to kind of understand what the thought process is that men use, like what words they come up with, what are some similarities, what are some differences. Because even though I went in and came out of that, man, I still struggle with answering it myself. But I do know that when I did try to go into it to analyze it, it was I feel like it's one of deconstruction.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm going in to try to analyze what a man is, I'm trying to go in there and pull out all of the things, all of the characteristics that are just specific to a man. Because I think to even pose the question, you got to ask yourself, is the idea of what is a man even valid?
Exactly. And I tried to do that when I went and did the same thing. I asked some folks. It kind of devolved into an opinion of what this ideal is, or what you think it should be, not necessarily what it is. And I try to relate it to DJing, because I think I get a lot of those questions too, like, you know, what's a real DJ? Oh, that's a real DJ. Oh, he ain't no, you know.
Want to play on vinyl.
Right. Well, there's these sort of things that define you as a DJ, but things that don't. Like, he's not a real DJ because he does whatever. So I try to do that too, man. And it's hard. It's hard, man.
And I think a lot of the reasons why it's hard for me as I analyze it is because when I sit and look and think about it,
right,
even on the surface, you start really realizing that the majority of what your idea of a man is fucked up.
Absolutely.
It's not a constructive.
No.
I don't even know.
And it's not, but it's also based on shit that you heard from somebody that got that from somebody that's clearly some shit that came out of, you know what I'm saying? Came out of some dark place. It's not, you know, it's not really I mean, none of those definitions that come down the line mean anything. I mean, they don't mean anything.
Because it's one of those things that you pull out when, if you're getting into an altercation with somebody or you feel attacked in some way, first thing you want to say is, fuck you talking to? I'm a man. You can't talk to me like that.
I'm a grown man.
When you prop up that, I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
When you prop that up, what are you really saying?
Right.
Because when you ask a man, what is the definition of a man?
Yeah.
A typical definition, a dude to say, man take care of kids. Man who handles his business.
Yeah.
A man who does his thing. You know,
does his thing.
But so is that the person you're saying you are when you prop that up when you feel attacked?
Right.
Because in my mind, most of the time when dudes are throwing that up, they're actually throwing it up to show you how weak they feel in that moment.
Right.
Or at least for myself when I would do that. Because like if I'm saying, you can't talk to me like that, I'm a man.
Yeah.
But then I ask you your definition of a man.
Yeah.
Don't none of that actually reflect what it is. If you feel attacked, if your definition is taking care of your kids, why is that something that you throw up? So it's actually something. There's our definition of what a man is, our personal individual definition. There's one that I think that society kind of perpetuates within the system, and parts of those we latch on to. But
and also the society at large, but also culturally, when we get down into the specific cultural dynamics of a quote unquote man and what that means, like it varies from culture to culture.
So when we flare up and we say, and we stand behind the firm term, what do you think is taking place in that man's mind at that moment? Let me ask you, when you throw it up, what are you saying?
When I throw it up, throw it up. I don't think that I remember a time where I've said,
"Bitch, you can't talk to me like that. I'm a grown motherfucking man." You don't think you've ever said that?
I think I felt it. I think I felt like
okay, that's clean.
So it's the same thing. So that's what. So I think that it depends on the relationship. Like there's a sense that, and I think let's take a step back. I think that a man is an adult person, not an adult person, a person that's valued and respected and seen as someone that another person should give a level of respect to. Right? person. So if you violate that as a person, something happens that twists it and it becomes as a man, right? But you really just feel devalued as a person. Now that devaluing comes from how you feel about yourself, because another person could, that same thing could happen, but they cannot feel that way, right? So it just depends on how you view yourself as a person to how that interaction is. Like, okay, for example, I've been working in jobs where where I've been in meetings, right? And someone will drive me nuts. Someone will cut me off when I'm talking and disregard what I'm saying as something that they don't feel like that they should have to listen to, right? That strikes me as a complete devaluing of me by this person. And I get heated. And I equate that to manhood, but it's really not. It's really as if anybody would feel that way. Man, woman, whoever it is, feel devalued, but another person can have that same experience and think nothing of it. Like, I've seen people in work environments get completely humiliated and they don't respond in the same way that I respond if a person attempted to humiliate me, right? And I will equate that to this man thing, but it's really not a man thing. It's a person thing. But it gets dangerous when it becomes a man thing, because now we take it in a different space. But it's different for me because I'm a person of color. You know what I'm saying? I'm a black man. So my interaction with that whole man thing takes on a completely different frame than someone who has not had the experiences as a black man that I've had.
Man. So,
and that's just one small sliver of that I'm a grown man experience.
There are so many labels that we attach to and have value in, that we care, that are such a part of our identity, that whenever those things are challenged, we feel attacked.
Yes.
And a lot of those things, so when we go, so if we're carrying the label as man of color, we're going out into the world and we're seeing attacks that are associated with men and as men of color.
And people.
And people.
Right.
But for me personally, I think I attach to the man and black man thing and not really the people thing.
Yeah.
Like to me, like all of the other shit takes precedence, which is the trick bag.
Right.
Like I'm a black man, then I got to be thinking about fuck, I'm human too. Like human is secondary. When in reality, human is the first thing. And then
it breaks down.
But I don't react in that way.
Right.
Because I'm still carrying around these attachments to these labels. And
something that we always talk about is how we carry all of those things that we've experienced, those bad experiences, those traumas, we carry them from situation to situation. So, we'll attach that disrespect piece to this incident. It might not be attached. It might be the same thing. It might not be. But we immediately attach it. That's what brings so much of that fire up. But go ahead.
Because it's whatever you say it is.
Right.
And then when I tell you it's that, motherfucker, you just gotta believe it.
Yeah.
Because I said it. I'm a dude. I'm a black man. And if I'm talking to a white man and you don't know what it's like to be a black man, you gotta shut the fuck up and listen. But because I said that's what I experienced.
That is true. But because do you think that we don't?
That's what women tell us to do. Yeah. By the way.
Yeah. But do you think that that there are instances when we use you gotta listen to me thing, and it's not necessarily the case. And let's apply that to people across the board. Like, is there a thing that once we create that separation and we say that separation is why I feel this way, and it's not necessarily the case, why? You know what I'm saying? Does the intent matter at all?
Yeah.
Or just how you receive it?
It whatever piece of it matters.
Okay.
But I think whatever piece of it that matters to you is what matters. Because it's like when they say God exists everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
So does, like, 2020 was a shitty year.
Yeah.
But it could have been a good year too.
Yeah.
What piece of it do you want to look at?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really is going to be based on how you tell that story.
Yep.
So a part of how we tell the story of what a man is based on a lot of individual factors.
Okay.
And so when going into what defining it is, you have to deconstruct it.
Okay. Break it down.
Because the notion is being a man, the idea of a man in our societal term. Is there value in that? And if meaning as an individual, is there value in the individual ideal of a man? Which means that a man inherently has characteristics and traits that are different from a woman.
Okay.
Because if we're going to separate them, there has to be value in separating them.
Okay.
Which means that there have to be qualities that are unique.
Right.
To that.
That's tough. That's tough, but I'm listening.
So when I went in to try to break this shit down in terms of what is a man, because let me take a step. Let me keep going with that. I'm trying to pull out these things, because first off, man, it's a hard thing to try to define for me.
Right.
I can give you what the answers are that I walked around with, that, like the typical shit, I'm a man. A man is a person who takes care of their business, but a woman should take care of business too.
Absolutely.
A man is a woman who provides for his family. A woman should be able to provide for her family too.
And they do. But let's take a step back. What, going into this, or going into your even questioning what the definition is, what did you think it was before?
I honestly did not know.
Okay.
And I still don't know.
Even after researching it?
Even, because I think a part, for me, man is not a noun. It's a verb. It is a...
Break that down for me.
It is not... It's not something you describe as much as it's something that you do. It's like an action. It's like if you are alive, if you are moving, if you are interacting with the molecules around you.
Right.
Because I'm trying to, then you are a man, because and a man, and in that you're creating.
Right. But here's the thing. So before all this, there's an idea of a man and a measurement of a man. A measurement, an idea, and certain qualities that a quote unquote man possess. But the problem with that assessment is that if you don't possess those qualities, then you're not a man, which is the dangerous part.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're a man regardless, right? You could be a bad man. You could be a poor man. You could be whatever it is that you are a man in that. Those qualities that we talk about, like you just were starting to say, they are good qualities no matter what you are. So the man piece is just the baseline. It's just what you were born into, right? There's no you can't attach a quality to something that you were born into.
And
but you can be you can be whatever type of person that you want to be.
Nor can you take credit for it. I can't
Exactly.
take credit for being black. I didn't choose this.
Exactly.
This is who the fuck I am.
Exactly.
I can take credit for some things that I actually go out and do.
Right.
But this goes back to, this is why just even asking the question.
Yes.
Because I used to be one of them kind of dudes. Used to be, motherfucker, I'm still that. My bad. I was talking. I'm straight
like you
talking.
evolved.
In third verse, I'm evolving.
James used to.
Yeah. So I'm the classic dude. Hey man, I feel like a man can't be a man nowadays.
Yeah,
you know, I can't hold the door open for a woman now without the woman saying she can do it herself.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta, you know, then you got these feelings about how you got certain feelings about, like, you know, how gays are getting access and how they're, and how how gay people are, gay men are kind of challenging what the traditional definition of manhood is like, and how like just my story used to be about how the idea of a man is being challenged.
Right. And manhood. That's
and so I feel like there are moments where I feel like certain aspects of it are being attacked. And then I have to ask myself, how can a real man be attacked? Because I'm asking myself these questions.
Yeah.
I don't really, this is the problem that I have, I think, when people can't speak their truth.
Right.
Because the only way you really get to know, the only way you can address it is by putting light on it.
Right.
So if I've got a fucked up thought, space should exist for me to share it so that those things can be challenged.
Right.
And so,
and discussed.
And discussed.
Right.
So there's this thought that manhood is being challenged, and there's all of these things that men feel like I feel like I can't be a man now. I feel like it's all about, you know, the woman's time, and, you know, Me Too, and you know, say it, she matters, and women matter, and then like and we feel like man is being attacked when really the whole essence, if you a motherfucking man, how can you be attacked?
Right.
By something like that.
Right. And it's, I mean, dog, these are things that are formed and put on us that we did not create. We just, again, the pattern, we talk about the matrix, man, that shit, we just accept it. We don't question it. We didn't create it. We don't analyze it at all. We just accept it. And we accept the narrative that a manhood, being masculine, is somehow being stronger, right?
Than a woman.
Right. And then walking around exhibiting this strength that and these behaviors, how we walk, how we dress, how we talk, how we interact with each other, and Lord knows I'm guilty of this shit too. How we interact with each other, how we don't interact with each other.
Yeah.
That things are happening that challenge that make us now, instead of questioning why we think that is manhood, we attack the thing that's making us question it. Like, you know, what gay folks do does not question who you are as a man. Like, your manhood is not attached.
But we say it, dude.
But we all day long.
Yeah.
What women do, if a woman is, I mean, there are dudes who feel like that if a woman is successful, or a group of women are successful, then it somehow challenges, not especially, Black folks tend to latch on this in a sense that these Black women leave us behind because they're successful. So we feel like that we're ignored because of their success, which those two things have nothing to do with each other. Like, their success is not you're not success. They didn't step on you in order to get to where, and that, again, your point, original point is really coming to light now. It's because of how we feel about ourselves. Like deep down, how we feel challenged by whatever that masculine, we think that, so we equate this masculine thing with man and manhood, which they don't have anything to do with each other.
Because there's something inside of us that we did not put there.
Exactly. A lot of shit inside of us.
And that feeling, and when we see something or feel something that challenges what was put in us.
Right. Or someone told us that challenges what.
Well, that's what that's also what was put in it.
Exactly.
Because all of that is a part of what was put in us.
Yeah.
So it's in us.
Right.
So when it doesn't match up, we challenge what's outside,
exactly,
as opposed to what's inside.
Right.
And for me. And this might be a good time to start kind of reading what was said.
Okay.
Reading what some of the feedback was, because for me, I'm challenging what the fuck is inside of me.
Right.
Because I think somewhere, like, and even when having conversations about what a man's supposed to do, what a man's role, like, I think I'm breaking these things down into functions. Like a successful family, a successful unit, a successful relationship requires certain functions to exist.
And those functions are cultural, a lot of
they're whatever they are.
Right.
And culture can certainly impact the functions.
Right.
But what function you serve is going to be based on your skill set.
Maybe. Go ahead.
There's this idea that a man's supposed to bring home the bacon.
Okay.
How in the fuck am I gonna bring home the bacon if I'm dating Oprah? So I got a different function in that situation. Like there is a function of paying bills and sustaining yourself. That is a function. Who's going to serve that function? Traditionally, it's been a man, and so that role has been attached to the identity of a man, not because that's what was required, but because that's what society set up for that dude to do. Now in 2020, Now in 2020, and for a while, women can also go out and make money.
Absolutely.
They can go out and do their own thing. Yes. So if you lucky enough to go out and if you lucky enough to, not say lucky enough, if you fuck around and date Oprah, and she a billionaire, and you working at Verizon, that function, you're not gonna serve that function in that relationship.
But see that let's break down that function, because I think that's there's something deeper there. When we say bring home the bacon, the reason why traditionally, culturally, is because men are seen as a quote unquote provider and to make their homes and families secure. And part of that security is providing food, right? Providing a means to get food. I mean, that's been traditionally the role all over the world. You know what I'm saying? So the bringing home the bacon piece is bringing home money is for that to happen, for food.
That's a function.
Security. Right. So if you're a man or person, a male, or whatever you are in that family, if your idea, if you want to provide stability and security and provide for your family, and you're dating Oprah, then you have to figure out a way to provide that in a different way. Like it could be, you could be the one that that sets up or finds all these other great businesses to invest in. And that can be your piece of how you bring your level of security. You know what I'm saying? If that's who you are, then that's who you are. If I dated Oprah, right, and she's a billionaire, I wouldn't then reduce myself because she's a billionaire. I'm a person that likes to create. I'm a person that likes to find different avenues to make stuff happen. Right? So I'm gonna use what she's doing or participate in what she's doing in some way. Maybe I run my own business. So maybe I set something up that I run my own thing and I do my own thing where I feel like that I am now being me, providing security and you know what I'm saying?
But you're validating my point though. Cause it's
but I shouldn't have to reduce myself.
You're seeing that as a reduction. I'm not. Nothing I said. That's what you heard.
Okay.
I'm not saying you're reducing because it's a moving things around and assigning different tasks to different people isn't about a reduction. It's about because I think a part of what is a quote unquote man is playing your motherfucking role. Like doing what the situation required.
But it depends on it depends on who you are.
But that's
different people have different ideas of what those roles are.
That's my point.
Right.
But you're creating it. You're not letting the world create it.
Right.
So you're not. If this is what the world is saying, the man brings home the bacon.
Right.
The man is saying that the man is supposed to be
the provider.
Be the provider.
Right.
That's not the case in every case.
Right.
So that's all that I'm saying.
In any case nowadays, I mean, I don't know too many family dynamics where the man is the sole provider of. I'm pretty sure they exist. I'm pretty sure there's lots of them. But I think there are more. Both parents are out getting it than there are a man is the sole provider for his family. And maybe I'll use a different example next time. It's an archaic example of a rule of a defining characteristic of a man. Right.
And it's one that I think men still traditionally hold on to in some way, shape, or form.
But I don't know if it's archaic in the sense that if I'm a person, right, and then my wife, she wants to be home, take care of the kids. I mean, that's his own full-time ass thing. That's not no slack work. That ain't no, you know what I'm saying? You just chilling. If you want to be home, take care of the kids, make sure everything is run right, make sure shit is happening on the home front.
But
cool. But if we have a conversation and I'm choosing, if I'm saying, okay, well, you know, I'm a person that always likes to provide, so I'll go out and I'll, you know, work or whatever the case is. You hold the house down. If that's how we interact, that's not archaic. That's just how we interact.
I want to make sure I'm clear because if you're hearing it, then that means somebody else could be hearing it. I'm not saying that the function is archaic.
Okay.
Because again, I'm talking about what the defining characteristics have been.
Okay, I got you.
Not if you meet a woman and she says, I want to sit around the house and have babies, and you say, I got you, baby, I make enough, and this is the role.
Right.
Let's say, and that's the role.
Right.
Boom. There are some dudes who sit down and think that a man ain't a man if he ain't working and taking care of the family.
Right.
So even in reverse of that, if the man is saying, I can stay home and take care of the kids,
right.
You make $500,000 a year. Yeah. I was making 90,
right.
You know, bagging groceries at Home Depot. Then let me go ahead and do this.
Right.
And you're a man.
Oh, absolutely.
So what I'm saying is, like,
I see what you're saying.
It's the defining.
Right. There's a belief that if you're not providing for your family, then you're not a man. And that you're saying that belief is what's archaic.
Yes.
I got you.
because it's the function of providing that has to be met. And somebody in the unit has to perform that function.
Gotcha.
And depending on what your skill set is, will determine whether or not you serve that function.
And with your family dynamic.
Yeah, because I mean, both people can serve that function, but somebody got to serve.
Yes.
Y'all motherfuckers can't sit at the house and then just watch food get delivered. it don't work like that. But
so that, yes, and that manhood piece, I mean, as you can see, even how we exchanged it gets so muddy and confusing. And it's not just, it's all of this. It's that example that we just gave. It's 100 other examples that are the same way, the same level of confusion and the same level of, when we talk about function and all that shit. But go ahead and read.
So let me read some, man. And they weren't bad. They weren't.
I got some crazy ones.
Okay, here's one I got. A man is one who understands what has happened to him before and since arriving to the shores of this land called America. One who gains insight to his emotional wounds and devises a recovery plan. One who endeavors to protect himself, his family, and community. One who prepares for his legacy while living in the moment. One who understands what he consumes is as important as understanding nature. One who can walk alone in obedience to his calling. One who serves others first before himself. One who mentors the next generation. One who does not fear death while living life to the fullest. One who surrounds himself with like-minded men and women. One who is creative in the midst of his struggle towards greatness. One who is at peace with moments of solitude. A man is one who engages in the arts and sciences and history in an effort to understand the world and his place in it. A man is all the above and more as he evolves from the infinite source. A man is one who realizes that he is of God. A man is a radical action verb at all times. And so that was one example. So another one was a man is strong, independent, determined, honest, hardworking, and a gentleman. Another one is a man handles responsibilities and has emotional intelligence. Another one was a man is someone who knows himself and the nature of himself and can articulate that knowledge and wisdom to others. Another one said, my definition of a man is God-fearing, sacrificing for the greater good, handling responsibilities and hardships while under pressure, having mind over matter. Another one said, my definition of a man is a male who isn't afraid to live in his own truth at all times. That means acknowledging weaknesses, utilizing strengths for good, constantly seeking to improve himself and to positively influence those around him. Another one said, I'm not sure there's a right answer, but if I give one, I say a man is a leader. Another one was saying, without being too romanticized, to me, a man is the emotional, spiritual, and emotional leader and provider and protector of his family. Another one said, a man is a person of character, compassion, a person of service and strength. Obama, I looked up his definition. He said, a man is first being a good human. Then it means being good, responsible, reliable, working hard, being kind, being respectful, and being compassionate. And those are the ones that I got. And so those are the high-end, perfect world, ideal terms that I think all of us see as positive characteristics for a human male to have.
I don't, man. I disagree.
You don't?
I don't.
Okay. They're not good for a human male to have.
Yeah, they are, but I think it's dangerous when we start to create this. We start to talk in terms of man fucking lofty, these enlightened, these progressive terms. When you're a man, if you sitting, let me tell you why it's dangerous. Why I think it's dangerous.
So when you say dangerous, so
let me change it.
You're saying
it's
these aren't for me. Good quality.
No, I'm not saying not good quality. Of course they are.
Okay, because you said you disagree.
I disagree that that's what a man is. I think those are good qualities for
okay.
Right?
So
but I think it's dangerous to define a man that way, is because there are men that struggle, that that lead their families and go out and sacrifice and work and bust their ass, and they are a fucking dumpster fire right beneath the surface. Like, they are struggling with so much shit in their own existence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, their fucking insides are a disaster, but they are, because they feel like they gotta maintain this facade of I'm a leader and leading my family and all the rest of that, right? And then that dumpster fire that's right beneath the surface starts to motherfucking seep out into his life in so many different ways. So now he's moving around in some dangerous, whether it's drugs or whatever the fuck, to help that fucking dumpster fire while they live this life of I am a man who walks with God and all that extra shit, right? So now nobody says that dumpster fire, you're still a man. You're still just as much of a man in that dumpster fire space as you are anywhere else. You're not less of a man because you struggle. You're not a man because you don't got your shit together. We all don't got our shit together. Nobody who said that got their shit together. Nobody lives in this perfect life, living this perfect life where their brain, soul, and mind and body are in complete alignment and hitting and moving towards this enlightened space. We all are struggling. And being a man is struggling in that. Is that dumpster fire? You're a man too. So when I say it's dangerous because now you feel like, and we carry that narrative. So now you feel like you can't share what you're really feeling with people around you because your spouse is gonna be like, you ain't no man. Your boy is gonna be like, man, suck that shit up, be a man, right? You can't say, hey man, I'm fucking like falling apart here. My whole existence, dog, is hanging on by a thread because of shit that happened to me 30 years ago, some shit that happened to me last year. I was at this meeting last week. This motherfucker just completely disregarded what the fuck I said, and that made me feel, I've been struggling with that shit in my brain for the last 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So, in my mind, all struggling is part of your manhood journey. It's part of who you are. Now, there is a piece that when you do struggle, you still got shit to do. Your kids still got practice. So you struggling, but you still gotta take your kids to practice. That's part of being part of that manhood piece too. You know what I'm saying? But recognizing that sometimes that you exist in a fucking a whirlwind of fuckery, right? But you gotta keep pushing forward. That's, to me, that narrative isn't told enough.
It's not. And I think out of the 12 people I asked, one of the people who I didn't mention said, he replied with a question. He was like, damn, there's only one definition? And shout out to him for that, because the challenge that I have, and quite honest, the challenge that I have with trying to define it is because I feel it has to be somebody, it has to be a definition that addresses each adult male and where they are, no matter where they are in their journey. And I don't feel like the majority of the responses, to me, there is no wrong answer. The beauty of person being able to define it is, like, if this is a metric that they're creating for themselves and using that as the baseline to improve, then kudos to them for that. But when I talk about what is man, when I define it for myself, when I go in to try to deconstruct, when we're having this conversation, I'm trying to speak to the spectrum of men who are in varied spaces and varied conditions that are still men. No matter where they are, because, and that's why I said I think it's more about a verb, because it's not, if all of those men's definition of man can be true, right? And I feel that to them, it is true. If all of those definitions can be true, and if I ask 20 more men, I'd get 20 more definitions. There's no fucking universal definition except in the dictionary. Then what value is it?
That's what I was gonna ask.
So, and this is why I asked the question in the beginning, because it's still a large part of our identity. And it's something that we still walk around with pride with, even when we're talking about how it's dangerous, even when we're talking about how these definitions are narrow and don't really encapsulate a broad enough constituency of men. We still walk around with it, with these feelings.
But the question is and remains, well, two things. There is a, no matter how slight meaning narrow, difference between what your opinion is and what the actual definition is. So you can, because being a man is really not defined, you can have whatever opinion you want. Like, let's take it back to DJing. I can have my full list of 10 things that I think a DJ is, right? No, all of those things are my opinion. None of them are like factual, not necessarily. You know what I'm saying?
But you can define your own terms. Like there are 5 different. Like if you look up the definition of man in the dictionary right now, right?
Right.
There are probably 7 or 8 examples.
So if anybody can define it for themselves, that's an opinion. What is the definition?
So the definition, there's a reason why there's 7 or 8, because it maybe started with 1. Like when you look at how words get added to the dictionary, it's a lot. It's based on how widely used that word is that gets determined whether or not it gets added to the dictionary. So
and how widely understood the definition.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like you can sit up here and say to me, being a father means you're defining to me what your definition. So now I know that every time you say father, now I know what that. We're all changing definitions to some degree or another.
So you're saying that the poll, because when I asked people, I got the vibe that that it wasn't like there wasn't a caveat of, to me it means, it was a motherfucker, being a man means this. Like, if you ain't doing this, you ain't no motherfucker, right? So the opposite is true. If you ain't doing this, you ain't a motherfucker man. Like, if you ain't doing these things, if you ain't living life, then you ain't a man.
Well, they might have been, honestly, I think we project that. Like, and that's the part, that's what I think is dangerous. That is what I think is dangerous. Taking my definition and applying it to all other men. Because if I'm at a state right now and I'm saying if you ain't doing this, you ain't a man, like how can I sit up there and evaluate what you are doing? I don't know what your struggles are. Like the dangerous part of it is projecting your definition onto other people.
But I think the opposite is true. So if I can say, if you're not doing this, you're a man. You're not a man. But is the opposite true? Can I rephrase that and say that this definition of these things that you should be doing as a man, can we infer that if those things aren't present in your life, then you're not? Or are you saying that these, like, you know, these things that I say define a man, if you're doing the opposite of that, what does that make you? Like, I think that it's dangerous to define something in behaviors, because behaviors aren't necessarily a definition of, that's a person's definition. A person should be forward looking and trying to get closer to God and trying to, I mean, all those things are people things. They aren't necessarily men things. Like there's a definition of a man should not include behaviors, because behaviors have a positive and they have a negative. Both of those things are men, so you can't say either one, right? If I'm got 50 kids, I'm a man. If I ain't got no kids, I'm a man. If I take care of the kids, if I got one kid that I don't take care of, I'm still a man. So if I got one that I take care of, I'm a man too.
So when you think that in your head, so are you saying that there's no value in the in the definition of a man?
I just don't know what the definition is. I'm not saying, of course, there's a value in it. The value of definition of anything, because it lends a level of understanding of that thing. But I just don't know what the definition of a man is, and it could be just based on what your relationship to that thing is. Like if I'm a son, right, and I'm 16, my definition of a man is could be based on my father, whether good or bad. Like if he's around, then I'm attributing manhood to the traits that he exhibits to me. If he's not, then I'm still attributing manhood to the traits that he's not exhibiting to me. Right? So it depends on where you sit in relationship to those things. But it's just hard for me to define once and for all. Like if I put it in a dictionary, what would it look like?
Here's the part that I think, even though it's hard for me, I still have a strong emotional attachment to it.
What do you mean?
The idea and concept of man. Because when I try to intellectualize it, I'm like you. But
is
let somebody cut me off.
It changes.
Let somebody commit an infraction against me.
So do you attribute that to manhood or people? Like
I contribute it to manhood.
But what would be the difference? So if someone showed the same level of disrespect that you feel in cutting off whatever else, and I'm certainly not, because I feel the same way. Like if someone exhibited those same behaviors to a woman, would her response be different?
No, but see, this is where I think a portion of, even though I don't subscribe to it, I think this is where a portion of that toxic masculinity stuff comes in.
I hate that word.
Even though I don't agree with it, because really at the end of the day, what the women are describing is fear. And I would rather them describe toxic masculinity as what it is, which is fear.
What do you mean fear from who? By
so like if the dude say, oh, look at him, like this, like a man not wanting to show emotion. There's toxic masculinity. No, that nigga just scared to show you how he feel because he don't want to get his heart broken.
Right.
But that's fear. It's not toxic masculinity.
It's not any masculinity. It's fear. It's people.
But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
There's something in the process, even though you and I cannot define the terms.
Right.
It's still this like lingering thing that's in us that we didn't put in there, that we constantly are challenging. We're constantly challenged because intellectually we know that it's bullshit. Right. Most of it is bullshit.
Right.
But we're still. So instead of us trying to change the outside, we're looking at and the energies and the forces that we perceive to be threats. We're looking at the inside because some of the shit is just wild. So like the other day, I remember we were doing something, bro, and I had to get close to you. I felt uncomfortable being super close to another dude, and I'm like, why am I uncomfortable sitting this close to a dude? Like, why? Am I uncomfortable because society says I'm not supposed to be this close? Then I had a conversation. They were like, other cultures, dudes are closer.
Yeah, they do.
So I got all of these things, and then somebody might say, oh, no, that's toxic masculinity. No, it's just fear of some sort. It's discomfort.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all of these things.
But the thing is, so, yes, all that's clean. Those societal and cultural fuckery that has been implanted, that we receive from someone who received it from someone who received it from someone, that's a long line, right? They go not to us, they go the exact same way into women.
Yeah.
Right? So those fears, they might manifest themselves differently, but they're the same fears. Like they exist in the same way. But the only way that there can be a toxic masculine behaviors if they're toxic feminine behavior. None of which are true. They're just bad behavior. They're just toxic, self-loathing, fucked up behaviors that we learned, that we acquired.
But this goes back to me trying to change the definition. I don't give a fuck what their definition of toxic masculinity. Like, you're not going to define. Like, let me rephrase that. You can define this shit as whatever you want it to be.
Right.
To me, you are describing fear.
Yes.
So that's the position that I speak from.
Yes.
But that's not a trait that is assignable only to a man. So because I'm trying to still go back to this notion of there's this thing in us.
Right.
Every man knows what the fuck it is. And since I'm not a woman, bro, I can't speak on behalf of a woman.
I get you.
But I'm sure one is in there somewhere.
Yes.
But there's one in me.
Yes.
That makes me get emotionally strongly attached to some shit when I feel threatened.
Yes.
And the first thing that comes up in me that wants to come out and stand firmly behind is this shit man.
Yes.
But ain't none of the definitions that I got from none of these motherfuckers that thing that I'm propping up in defense of. And through the deconstruction of, let me lower my goddamn voice. Through the deconstruction of the definition, I am finding that the majority of my traditional definition is fear-based. And it is shit that really isn't about man.
So
it's about being a good person.
Yes.
So the shit that I'm actually holding on to,
yes,
that is specific to a man,
yes,
is fear for me.
Yes. Yes.
It's not man, it's fear.
Yes. But it's fear that serves no purpose.
But it's still fear.
But I mean,
it serves a purpose because the idea of man is a value that society holds high. So at least in societal currency, it's high, bro.
But how do you that idea of man. Well, I want to ask you. Well, let me ask you this first, and then I'm gonna ask you the second question. The idea of man that we live and die and fucking suffer for in this society, in this culture, this idea of man. How does it serve us? How does it define us? Does it separate us?
I can tell you.
Does it separate us from our women in terms of how we think a man should act and how we think a woman? I mean, how does that idea serve us?
Listen, bro. We live in a patriarchal. Everything I'm about to say.
Don't.
But hold on. Everything I'm about to say is bullshit. But I'm gonna say it because it's what we're being told.
Okay.
So the story matters because the story is what gives value to these currencies.
Okay.
We live in a patriarchal society.
Okay.
Men been treating women like shit because they women and men are men, and that's just what the fuck men are supposed to do.
Well, they're scared.
So let me finish the story. It's bullshit.
Go ahead.
But it's still a story.
Yes.
Now, what is the one thing that it has the highest value in our society? A white man. But when you say the idea of a man, what is a man? So it has value and serves a purpose because society says it's valuable and serves a purpose.
But what does it do? How does it serve you? Because that white man, that shit don't serve me.
But at least I ain't a black woman. So I'm a black man. So it's patriarchy. This is the word. None of it serves my best self. This is what I mean when I say when I deconstruct it all. When I deconstruct it all, the only thing that is left about man is weakness. But that's not how it's being sold. That's not how it's being sold. Right. It's being sold as strength. So that's how it's being sold. But when you break that bitch down, it's weakness. Once you take everything out, once you take all of this shit out that cannot be applied to a woman.
What do you mean all the shit? All of what?
All the characteristics.
Such as?
Provider.
Okay.
Protector.
Okay.
That ain't some shit that's supposed to be specific to a man.
Yeah.
A woman need to know how to motherfucking, hey, go get that thumper and you bang that bitch out if somebody come through that goddamn door.
For sure.
Am I supposed to be the only one?
For sure.
So
and 9 times out of 10 she does. But
she gonna probably be a better shot.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
Once you take everything out of that definition, everything that's left is weakness.
Such as?
It's ego.
Right.
Like when I sit up and I stick my chest out and tell a motherfucker, how you gonna talk to me like that, a man? That's my ego.
Yeah.
It's not even that's fear.
Yeah.
That's fear.
And there's some shit that's
lions ain't walking around talking about they lions. They motherfucking lions.
Yeah. And it's something that's not, you can't quantify how much of a man you are in those moments. Like, I don't know all right, well, what are you quantifying that with? Because you said so? Like, what?
Yeah.
What? Where? Yeah.
Because being a man has value in our culture. Not because it actually does, but because the society says it does. Being a man has value. And it just, like that, and I think that's one of the reasons why we stand behind it. Women, like, and one of the ways women respond to that is by saying, shit, women have value. They do. But we spend too much time talking about what men are.
No,
like when we don't stick our chest out and say, I'm a human.
I'm a human being.
Like we don't stick out, who the fuck you talking to? I'm a human. I'm a whole human.
I'm a grown human.
I'm a grown human. There's something specific about these terms. When I say man can't, think about this for a minute. I'm going to be very specific.
Okay.
When I say shit like men can't be men anymore, the idea of what a man is is being challenged and existed. That thing that I am describing is weakness.
What do you mean? What do you mean it's weakness? Not that I disagree, but
when I say a man can't hold a door open for a woman, what the fuck am I really saying, bro?
That's what I'm asking.
No, I'm really saying is that I had this superficial function. Society, because again, think back about this. Who the fuck told me that holding the door open for a woman is a manly thing to do? Who gave me the rules of chivalry? That ain't some shit I created. I didn't even create the concept. But yet still, I walk around, want to be on the outside of walking down, be on the street side when you're walking down as opposed to the inside, want to hold the door open, want to make sure I pay the bill first, and you don't put your money away. Your money's not good here. All this dumb, like all of this shit, I pay for everything. All of these things that I'm talking about are being challenged are superficial examples because my function still fucking exists and is needed. It's just the bullshit.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you. I also, to me, there's a value. Let me make sure I put this the right way before it's received as weird. There's a value in, for me, how I treat women, particularly women of color. Particularly women, like in spaces where traditionally they've been put in certain boxes and certain narratives that aren't positive, right? But let me back up. Me holding a door for a woman is not necessarily me doing it because I feel that I'm the superior sex, the superior gender, right? I will hold a door for a woman because I might hold a door for anybody, right? I can open a door for anybody, right? But sometimes I feel like women of color, I want to give them something extra. And it doesn't come from a place of, hey, I'm, helping out the lowly.
Where does the superior come in when you said that?
Because that's the traditional thought that because I feel like I am the superior, stronger gender, that I have to, I think that's where the chivalry piece comes from. Because you mentioned chivalry. The chivalry piece comes from, I am the stronger gender, I have to help the lesser gender. Well, I have to help them along and do things for them like they are weaker than I am, right?
So chivalry is a code, right? It's a code of conduct.
It's a behavior, yes. Yes.
The superior piece,
let me change superior to stronger gender. That I have to be I have to carry shit for the weaker gender.
But that's bullshit.
Of course it is. I'm not saying it's not. But that's just where chivalry comes from. Right? That's the origin of how chivalry works.
Well, I don't want to correct you on the term, but this goes back to knighthood shit.
Of course.
But that ain't carrying it anyway.
It's a separation.
But the idea of holding the door open for the woman don't need the motherfucker.
Of course, we know that.
But this is my point, though. We attach a need to some shit we don't even need to do.
I don't attach a need.
Not me and you. Like the ideal code, the ideal behavior of the dude. So when we're saying that that men can't be men,
right?
These are terms that I'm hearing, bro. of that's actually being that manhood is being attacked in all of these different ways. Because women are quote unquote becoming liberated and taking care of themselves. Stupid shit.
When I hear a man can't be a man, it speaks to something different for me. It speaks to a motherfucker wanting to be reckless and careless and talk to women in a crazy ass way. So, like in crazy ass circumstances. Like they should be able to, because they're a man, they should be able to walk up to a woman at work and be like, "Oh, some nice thighs you showing today, Sandra," and that should be okay. Like it's not okay.
Yeah.
Or they should be able to brush across at work, brush across Molly at her desk, and when she said, "What the fuck you doing?"
You got some different friends, bro.
That's what I attach. A man can't be a man too.
Yeah.
Like I've never. I don't think that I attach being like opening the door for a woman or whatever the case. We know that they can open the door. I mean, everybody knows that. But I don't attach that to being like feeling like manhood is challenged.
My perception of it is that that the traditional value of the function of the man is being challenged. The traditional, not like you going to work and complimenting the chick on her thighs is some other shit.
I'm going to work. I ain't saying me.
No, not you. I'm just saying like a person. But mine is, I've always and maybe
and it's a spectrum.
But all of it is clean though. But I think all of it reflects something. It all reflects a weakness.
It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of yes, traditional roles are challenged all the way up to the harassment just being a dickhead piece.
Yeah.
Like that's all in the same spectrum of things. But yeah, manhood should be, anything should be challenged in a way that holds on to some old fucked up approaches to doing things. Everything should be. So it shouldn't just be quote unquote, it should be womanhood too. What women think women are. I mean, there's some women or some people who feel like that you don't have children, you're not a woman. I mean, you're not considered a woman. Considered a woman. Like, there are questions about that. Like that, not as much as it was now, but there was a time when that was looked at. If you're not married at a certain age, they think of you as less than what a woman should be. It's times when if a woman went to work, she was deemed less than a woman because she ain't at home taking care of her kids. So both of those things, all of those archaic ideas of what these gender roles are should be challenged and at least questioned as to why the fuck they exist. And these are people things. They aren't necessarily specific to a gender.
No, they're not, but we still walk around with that chest out, bro. Like even and I think at least for me, having the conversation and even going through the process of trying to define what a man is for me and how I would perceive, you know.
But men. Have we landed on that? Have we landed on that?
I don't know.
And should we?
I don't think we should. For me, so when I first started out, with it was easier for me to say what a man is not. From an ideal, not what a practical application of a motherfucker is, but what the ideal man is. He's not this, he's not that, he's not this, he's not that, he's not this, he's not that.
Right.
It was a lot easier for me to strip away than it was for me to add to. And then because I couldn't tell you what a man was, I could just tell you, it was easier for me to tell you what he wasn't in the process.
Right.
But I couldn't, but it still was something that wasn't addressing, because let's say one of those things I was pulling away, let's say that was what a person was. Because I even thought somebody I asked responded and was like, this is a fool's errand. Just even the idea of even posing a question.
Yes.
It's too much. It's like you can go down a rabbit hole. And I don't think my purpose of asking the question, I think really was to see what the responses were, and to have a conversation about just the concept, because it is there's the intellectual piece of it, there's the brain, and then there's the heart, and then there's, the human and the ego and all these different parts that are involved in it. Right. But I think that when I at least try to get to the root of it, the idea of a man actually starts to disintegrate. So what a good man is actually a good human.
Yes, because
man is actually a human.
Yes. If you look at all of those definitions and the ones when you start to strip away, what if you remove the man piece? So it's twofold. If you remove the man piece and put person, would it be the same thing? Would you end up with all those definitions are good people? I mean, would be people.
Yeah.
Right? Or good people, or whatever the people are. And when you start to strip away things, what would be the difference? Like when you come away, let's say you could find that one definition of a man, what would be the difference between that and a woman? I mean, what is truly other than, of course, genetically, or not genetically, physically, what is the difference between a man and a woman?
I'm so glad that you asked that, because in my mind, there's something about balance.
Yes.
That came to my mind when you were saying that.
Yeah.
And the yin, the yin and yang symbol.
Absolutely. Yes.
And how, and energy.
And those are defined. Those pieces are defined in how they interact and that balance. But are they male and female energies? And should they translate into actual people, human beings? So the piece about bringing order out of chaos, right? And then creating from that chaos, right? That yin and that yang piece and how they fit. Are those men and women at their core?
No.
A woman creates out of chaos. She does physically. She creates a person out of a womb of nothing. I mean, it doesn't exist. And then there's a person that's created, right? She's creating actual people, right? And a man creates that order, starts that creative process, and when he impregnates, I mean, there's a physical balance to that, right? Not speaking of their mental states or aptitude or whatever else, just strictly physical. That piece happens. Does that translate into behaviors?
So, one of the definitions that Farrakhan gave, and one of the things that he said around manhood, is that he said you cannot be a man without a woman. And he said a woman helps make a man a man.
Yes.
And I think a piece of what you're saying that actually that resonates. I don't know how it lands or what it means.
Yes.
But it's like a lock and a key and maybe not be the best word, but I think it's the energy that represents, because man and woman are shit that we created. Those aren't universal terms.
Society and culturally.
That's us. So, but they can represent energies.
Yes.
That both bring to the table. I think when we talk about man and woman, we're talking about the things that we're talking about the societal definitions.
Yes, cultural.
And cultural. And those are what I think, and the roles that are assigned.
Yes.
And that we were told when this, like, so dudes don't play with pink, dudes don't like rainbows, dudes think butterflies is weak, you know, like stupid shit, bro. Like dudes play with baseballs and girls go jump rope. Like these things that continue, that we continue to perpetuate as we become adults.
Yes.
Those are the things that are not serving us.
Yes.
As productive, cooperative human beings.
And not only do we perpetuate it, at worst, we allow it to perpetuate. Like, we might not be like, boys don't play with pink, but we sure don't, like, we don't correct it. You know what I'm saying? We don't.
And some of us think it's right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's, but that, so when we're talking about this, none of that is addressed in what the definitions we got were. Yes. But they contribute just as much as what the definitions are.
Yes. And we define energies by male and female because it's easier, I guess, in my mind, it's easier for us to understand them. They're not male and female, they're just energy, and they interact differently. But we give these assignments on a historical level because that's sort of how we, interact with it.
So let somebody come up and be like, we ain't either. Get the fuck out of here. Like, we don't want to create space for that.
Right.
We'll try to discard it.
Right.
Or, put it off to the wayside. And that's what I think a lot of but that's why it's really important to look within when these things come up. Because we have to challenge what was put in. Because a lot of most of what is in us, our bag, we didn't put in there.
Yep.
And so when we are evaluating this thing about what is a man, like the idea, I'm at a point now, bro, to where I'm willing to throw the whole motherfucker out. Right. Because I don't know if much of it serves me.
Absolutely.
Like I can be a good human being, bro.
Yes.
I can be loving.
Yes.
I can be supportive.
Yes.
I can fuck you up too.
Yes. Yes.
I can do all of that.
All of that is people shit.
And all of that's people shit.
That's right.
And I don't have to walk around here with my chest out.
Right. I don't have to live up to some standard that another motherfucker has set that is impossible to live up to.
And I can do all of that with a pink polo.
That's right.
And some flip flops.
Yep.
Drinking a motherfucking drink with an umbrella in it.
That's right.
With my pinky up.
Yeah.
And a motherfucking straw hat. That's probably gonna be the extent of where I go. I ain't gonna go too far. Yeah, I'm not gonna go too far. But you get what I'm saying. Like all of this other shit. Oh man, don't do that.
Right.
Because here's the important thing, man. A lot of us understand that what was put in there isn't serving us. I think a lot of us do. And that's a good point. That's a good point. I don't know.
Dog? Like that's what you think.
Like that's a good point.
When I ask people the question, I got the most heavy-handed man. Take care of business. He don't take no shit from nobody. I got that. I mean.
Well, it's your friends though. Like look at you ain't with dope dealers.
Exactly.
Motherfucking correctional guards.
Degenerates.
Liquor store clerks.
And there's no dog, none of that, sir. And I think it is a fear of how you will be perceived. Like if you're sitting with a drink with an umbrella in it, that joint pink and frozen, and you got on some flip flops and a pink polo, and me and the crew walk up and saw you, we be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
I mean, we know what you're doing.
right?
You bending it for Beckham.
Right. We automatically put these things on you. Like, even if we know they're not true, the fact that you got caught in that moment doing that thing, like,
it make us feel better.
I don't know why. Is it because it's funny, or is it because there's some?
It's what's in. We have to take what's out here and make it fit what's in here.
But
that's the, and that is, and I'm gonna use the term again. I didn't use this goddamn term more than I used my whole life. That's, I feel, is what the toxic masculinity is. And I hate the term. And it's really fear, because it's taking we have to take what's out here and make it fit what's inside of us. But what's inside of us is bullshit. Yeah. What's inside of us is narrow, it's restrictive, it's easy, and it's simple. And we have to make everything outside fit that. So if we see a nigga looking sideways as a motherfucker with the most feminine of shit on, we have to make that fit what's in here. Because God forbid, that's just a regular motherfucker just feeling himself. He probably got 20 hoes at the crib. But when we sitting here, and he probably, and we sitting like, oh no, there's just no way. There's no way he's being cool and free and got hoes like in our mind.
but what if we flip that, right? And I'm all about equations. If that thing is true, if we have that, if you were sitting outside on patios from restaurant, and me and the crew saw you out there with the flip flops and the pink polo, drinking a drink with the umbrella, right? And we walked up, we would give you the business, right? But is that true if we walk by a trap house and saw you sitting on the steps of a trap house smoking a crack rock, right? Would we give you the same business? Or would we be like, what would our response be to that?
What do you mean?
Like, if it's about what we perceive is what our narrow perception of what a man should or shouldn't do, right? What other things can we replace with the pink polo and the umbrella drink with something else that we perceive that we will respond the same way?
Yeah.
Or is that the only, is your sexual preference is the only thing on the table to be truly questioned and ridiculed, right? What else is on the table for that?
So when I say all of it, like we're doing it with a lot, but we're really, because it's a comparison, we're taking what we feel to be true.
Right.
It's an image that we have,
right, that
a feeling is associated with.
Right.
And then we'll take what's outside of us and we'll make that fit with what's in us. So if we're walking by and we see, like, if the image in us of a motherfucking crackhead is a person sitting on a stoop smoking a rock, and we see that, boom, that matches up. We cool, we clean.
Right.
But you ain't gonna go by and look at that dude smoking that crack and be like, oh, he must own a company somewhere. Like, that's not gonna add up. He might.
But what if that were you, somebody you know? What if it was your man? Like, if it was you? Like I said, if we saw you sitting there drinking a drink, right? All of that, we'd be like, what the fuck you doing with the pig? We would go in on you. Like, it would be a whole thing. If we saw you exhibiting a different behavior that we deemed as whatever, would we respond the same way? Would we go in on you the same way if we saw you sitting?
It depends on what it was that you were evaluating. But I think no matter what it would depend on your personal situation. Or like what your experiences are. But I don't think that, because I think what's different about the man piece is that is a part of our identity, man. Like, that's true. That's at our, it's like being imagine waking up tomorrow and then acting like color don't exist.
Right.
That just won't be a thing you do. In the same way that you ain't gonna wake up tomorrow, the average person ain't gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, God, being a man don't matter. Especially when you done spent 50 motherfucking years attached, telling yourself stories and like you got a whole universe built around something that is not serving you to your fullest. And so now we're saying at 44, 30, whatever, however old you are, that's looking at this shit and thinking about it, what we've been told about quote unquote manhood is not real. It's not serving us to our fullest. It's restrictive. It's keeping us from seeing really ourselves and other people. Because even if you got a dude walking by who might be struggling, like a homeless person or something, that's still a goddamn man.
Yeah.
He might have 10 kids and ain't taking care of them.
Yeah.
But he's still a man.
Yeah.
And he might still deserve your compassion
Yes.
to go over and say and acknowledge him as a human. Because he's a human. Yes. But when we're talking when
Yes.
we're attaching these labels
and these metrics,
it kind of creates a subconscious
judgment,
justification for you to treat that person a certain way.
Yeah, and we, I mean, if we replace man with person, a lot of this shit would not exist in the same way it does.
No,
like if all of the things that we read, and man, the person is someone who thrives for whatever. I mean, it is. But it's a man or I mean, it's either one. It's not. That's not. And it also is dangerous because it creates this sort of measurement for a man. But what does that say for a woman? Does that mean that they don't have to measure it? Or are they different? Are they okay not to be responsible or whatever? I mean, do we not hold them as accountable as we hold men? Should we? I mean, what are you saying is the metrics for if one is here, is the other one there too? What's the deal? Like, what is truly happening? And once you disregard the other one, then you start to treat them less than. I mean, every job when I go into a work environment or work setting, or even and work being whatever work, or DJing, if I'm like bartenders, man, whatever the case is, I try to treat them like people, right? Regardless of their gender is unimportant to how we interact in a work situation. Now, let me change that. Because if it's 3 a.m. and we leaving, and it's a waitress, the bartender, and we leaving, and we're leaving, and she's leaving alone, I'm gonna say, where's your car? I'll make sure that she gets to her car. Would I do that with a dude? Maybe. I don't know.
No, you wouldn't. And
we talked about that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You wouldn't. Stop.
I don't know.
You would.
It depends.
Bro.
Put it this way. I've done this. If we leave it out together, me and my man's DJing, and your car is 2 blocks away, and my car's on the corner, let me take you to your car.
Yeah, you would do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. No, you wouldn't. If the drive was far and it's not and you're not doing it for a safety thing.
What am I doing it for? Dog, I'm doing it strictly for a safety thing.
So
strictly.
I'm not. And maybe that's me projecting.
So you would be like,
no, if I drove him to the thing, I'd be like, man, your car too. Put it like this: if a dude's car, if we're on 1st Street,
right,
and the dude's on 3rd,
right,
he walking,
and your car is out in front, like your car is right there.
I might give him a ride for a convenience standpoint.
What do you mean?
From a convenience standpoint,
your convenience,
his, especially if they had a bunch of stuff. Like I would ask, hey man, you want me to give you a ride? Like it ain't no thing. I'm just right here. For a woman, it would be a safety for me, and I'm not.
Yes.
I would do it for the man.
Yes.
For a convenience.
Yes.
I would do it for the woman for a safety.
Yes.
But both would still get asked.
Yes.
They would just get ass for different reasons.
Yes.
So,
and there's something wrong with that.
Yes.
Which is wrong? Is it you doing it one for convenience, or should you be doing it safety for the homie as well?
So this goes back. So we have to look at the society that we're in too, and this is like, to me, one of the parts that's dangerous about it is that we are men living in a world where the world is saying being a man has value, even though it's an illusion. But me and you are having a conversation around the possibility that shit might not be shit, right? It might just be bullshit. But just because it's bullshit to me and you don't mean it ain't bullshit to the world. So a dude still has a certain amount of risk getting to his car. A woman has a higher risk getting to her car, just given the nature of their gender.
No, I'm not giving the nature of their gender. It's just giving the nature of,
to me, it's
what the society is.
But that's the gender.
But that's not because of their gender. It's because of how the society is set up. In that a motherfucker will sit in the alley and watch 5 dudes go by, but feel like they got a better chance to snatch up the one chick that walk by.
So we're talking about 1 dude and 1 chick, not 5 dudes and 1 chick.
No, I'm saying
one dude. Statistically speaking, bro.
No,
a
what I'm
man
saying is
has a higher probability. A woman has a higher probability.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
That's all I'm
saying. The
saying.
same thing.
But that's because of gender.
Okay, I don't think.
If I'm a nigga that's robbing people, if I am a robber,
right?
Am I gonna rob a man or a woman who by themselves?
Okay, you rob a woman, I guess.
Because she's a woman.
But what if you thought the dude would have more money?
He got to get got.
So you would rather rob a woman? So if you were a robber, you would rob a woman because it's easier, but you would rob a guy because you would think he would have more money.
It would depend. Like maybe that wasn't a good analogy because I think that would end up taking us down a rabbit hole.
Right.
All things being equal.
Okay.
The dude got money, the woman got money.
Okay.
The woman got to come up off of it.
Right, because she's the easier target than the man is.
Yes.
Right. Okay. But I've been in situations where I've come out of a gig with a DJ homie, 5'3", 5'2", maybe 175 pounds, white, long hair, the whole thing, right? $400 J's on, together, walk out of the club. I look down the street. It's another club down the street that's a little more urban than the club we were in, right? I know that he doesn't stand a chance getting down that street, right? I'm gonna make sure he get to his whip, right? I'm not gonna leave him. So in that case, it's an absolute safety issue.
Well, there are a lot of. I mean, especially if you're calculating all of that, you have a responsibility at that point.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, because I mean, I'm talking about like
you talking about
unknown risks.
Okay.
Yeah, like all of that. Like
okay.
You see the wolves. And then you can't let Little Red Riding Hood. Not in good conscience.
Not in good conscience.
But
yes, but I see your point. I don't know what we were getting to with that.
So we're being men in a society where being a man has value. It's almost like, I mean, imagine if a white dude was saying, being white don't mean shit. And then somebody sitting there looking like, what do you mean? Being white does matter. And he's saying that to white people.
So you feel like being a black man has more value than being a white woman?
No. I think being a black man has more value than being a black woman.
I think we're the same in terms of black and
I do. Me personally, I do too. But in terms of outside in,
that's a tough one.
You know what? I don't know. Now that I think about it,
with both. I had experiences where I've been in work settings where, as a black man, this like white men different level of it because there's the cool factor. I'm cool with a black guy, so they attach more value to that. But I've also been in spaces where there's an older white man who just loves black women, and they want to be around. So they are the golden ticket. And again, that's not to separate because we are the same. Like black women, black men, and black women have the same struggle, the same everything. Everything is we are in this together. There's no separation. There's no feeling of they're getting something that we're not. But dynamically, I've seen both dynamics happen.
And you've only seen it from the lens of a man.
Yes.
Because if we were sitting here having a conversation with a woman,
yes,
I bet the woman would be seeing it, and that's the challenge.
Yes, I agree.
Especially when we talk about this color shit.
Yes.
And get down into the weeds.
Yes.
From a male female perspective, because we both getting fucked on some level.
Yes.
And we will start arguing about whose suffering is worse.
Yes.
And whose perception is right when we're both right.
Yes.
So like if a woman feel like her shit is worse, you got it, baby.
Yeah.
If I feel like my shit is worse, and it's not and that's the thing. It's not a competition.
And both could be true.
Yeah.
In some instances, my shit could be worse. In some instances, your shit could be worse. It's we both struggle with the same types of shit. You know what I'm saying? How many times you struggle with it is up for, you know what I'm saying? Are you saying that you've done it 10, I've done it 8? I mean, it's all the same experiences for a lot of us.
And the cause of I focus on what the cause of the struggle is,
right,
not what we're struggling with, because that can be a very subjective thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what's causing the struggle can cause us to conflict with one another.
Yes.
Which would be masked as something different.
Yes.
So I look at the cause and not what the effects of the cause are.
And we should do that more. We should empathize and relate to each other more in the cause of what's happening, less in the actual incidents or number of incidents or perception or story or whatever. Because I think a lot of times we do get into this debate between who has it worse, which I think is sort of brings back to what we talked about earlier, which I think is a mistake, because we are in this together. Shit, people are in this a lot of times together, and that we separate a lot of the times, man. But a lot of times we're having the same internal struggles.
And we'll start talking about if light-skinned people struggle less
Exactly.
than dark, and then it's
Exactly, it gets crazy.
I mean,
I've heard a motherfucker talk about tall people struggling less.
see,
Than
and it just depends, and it's all rabbit holes, right?
Exactly.
And I think what's clear to me, my walk away with it is there's something in me that I did not put there.
Yes.
I've been spending a lot of time trying to take what's in the world and make it fit what's inside of me.
Yes.
But I'm starting to understand that the shit that inside me shouldn't even be there.
Clean that shit out your bag.
And it's not get it out of my bag.
It doesn't serve.
And the closer I get to trying to define what a man is,
right,
it becomes less about being a man,
right,
and more about being a good human.
And once you start to search for that definition, it turns into nothing, because it doesn't exist. I mean, there's no measure for a man that doesn't apply to everybody else. Doesn't apply to human beings. And as we strip away, take that shit out of our bag, we will develop better relationships because of it. You know what I'm saying? No matter what the relationships are. I mean, work relationship, whatever it is, because then we start to empathize that what I struggle with or what I feel like, you know what I'm saying, other people feel the same way. Regardless of that fear that I get, other people, women get that fear too. So that could have them respond in a certain way that now I can empathize. Now we can come together and have a solid conversation or a solid understanding about what's happening beyond this gender shit.
What part of your shit did you think? Let me rephrase the question. Let me ask a different question. Did you grow up with your dad?
Yeah, somewhat.
What portion of your manhood, your definition, or your idea about it did you think came from your relationship with your dad?
I think the way my dad moved, he was a quiet guy, man. Quiet, strong, didn't take no shit from nobody. That as an example. And that could be a people trait, right? But you, because it's your father, you attach it to being a man. But it could just be a person. I could just be a person that's quiet and don't take a lot of shit from nobody. That ain't no man thing, but you equate that to a man. So that is the baseline for me. Everything else sort of moved in this societal understanding about it. Even as I started to progress through understanding my blackness, even that has this gender piece to it that's a little bit dangerous, right? Of a black man taking care of his family and all the rest of that shit. But again, that never served me. It just further separated me from what reality was. So to answer your question, dog, I would say about, on a percentage, I would say it was less about being a man, more about the person that I was becoming. Like his influence on how the things that you need to do to be a better man, but also to be a better person. Like how you need to get shit done. You need to be resilient in how shit works. You can't let, because, something or someone let you down, you can't let that stop you. You gotta keep going. You gotta, you gotta be the person that completes shit, right? I equated that to being a man, but that's really a person, right? Even with your family, if the buck stops with you, if a problem comes to you, you have to solve it as the leader of your family, whether you're male or female. If you are the leader of this unit, then you have to solve whatever that problem is. And that's sort of where he was. But again, I took that as a man trait, but it's really not a man trait. You know what I'm saying? So all those things are part of, but he wasn't one that be like, man, you a man, you need to, but he said it without saying it. Like, you need to make sure you get shit done. You ain't got time to cry. You ain't got time to be sad. You ain't got time to you need to get this done. And you sort of attach that to man, right? And, there's always the piece of women cry. Women have time to cry. You ain't got time to cry. You ain't got time to sit around and cry. You got to get this shit done. You're not a woman. You know what I'm saying? It goes back to you crying like a little girl.
Yeah.
Stop crying like a little girl. Get up. Yeah. Get up. So that turns into those thoughts that you have as what you're supposed to be as a man.
There was something always very unsettling with me, even when I was a little kid, dude. And I can't pinpoint why. There was something that always sat wrong with me when I heard only a man can teach a man how to be a man. It just always felt wrong. I don't know why. I was like, I don't, how can just one motherfucker teach one motherfucker how to be a motherfucker? Like, it was interesting because I've always felt that I've learned the most about being a man from women.
Explain that.
the quote unquote male characteristics was something that was very easy for me because I was a dude. And my definition as a kid of male, of being a man, was just like bullshit. The traditional man is, is strong, can protect, and can do all of these things. But I felt deficient in a lot of areas where I never felt whole. And a part of being a man for me was a part of like a higher definition. And this was even younger. And I didn't really understand, like these are things that I was just thinking about and didn't really understand. Like a part of being a man for me was like being whole.
Right.
And a part of being whole was getting game from a woman in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
And because
so you think those perspectives, so you feel like that there was something that you weren't getting from only a male perspective at the time.
Yeah.
Whatever that perspective was. It's not necessarily a male perspective, it was just the perspective that you were getting. There wasn't a wholeness to it.
Yeah, there wasn't.
So let's take away, for a second, man and woman, right? Let's say that the person teaching you something, you didn't feel like that person taught you a complete thing.
Yes.
That you needed another piece of that to complete the thing.
Yep.
Okay. I get that.
Yeah. And that piece was a female piece.
But what is the female piece though? And what makes it different from?
It was a balance to my energy and the ability to manage that energy and that balance.
Explain.
So when we're taught from men to be men, we're hearing that from a male's perspective. And most motherfuckers do not listen to women or in general, period.
Okay.
So when a man is telling you how to be a man, more than likely that man is telling you how to be a man from a male perspective that had little input from a woman. Because we're entering into these spaces saying like, I'm the dude, I really ain't got to do that much listening. So at least from my analysis and what I was observing growing up, there wasn't a lot of cooperation between male and female. It was just this is my way, this is how the fuck it is, and this is what it is.
Right.
And so even the man who was teaching me the idea of being a man, he was not looking, that wasn't peppered with some female analysis of it.
So
at the time.
So because I'm trying to relate that to how I talk to my sons about this man thing. And you're saying that there was no do you feel like that in your life, in other ways, there was no cooperation between your parents?
So my dad wasn't in my life a consistent force in my life. And so most of my interaction was with my mom.
Okay.
And so I got game from uncles and other people and stuff like that. And my dad was kind of like a peripheral, an ancillary force.
Yeah.
So, but there wasn't a lot of collaboration. There wasn't a lot of teaming of problem solving or any of that. So a man was a very rigid thing.
Right.
And it wasn't malleable. I felt like it was something that you just fucking arrived to hold. It wasn't something you made necessarily.
Right.
It was just this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in my own personal life, I had always been around women, so I always felt the nurturing and the input of a woman in that way.
So you never felt that, because I think your experience is common, is that in that you always felt that those two things were separate. Like the nurturing piece and that rigid male piece were two separate things, not necessarily the same thing.
Right. So when we hear people say shit like only a man can teach a man how to be a man.
Right.
When I hear that, I hear no woman has, only a man can teach a man how to be a man. As an example, these are terms that these are terms that I've heard repeated.
Yes.
And so when you say that, what you're basically saying is that the woman has a smaller role to play in the development of a full man than the man. And and I'm saying that in my personal experience, women have played a bigger role in the development of the man, of my definition, or my developing, or whatever that definition was, even though it wasn't right, than the actual man.
Right. So let's break that down. Because when you say a man only can teach a man how to be a man, so what that really is saying that there are certain lessons and aspects and points of views, right or wrong, we ain't saying they were healthy or right, that can only come from one kind of experience or point of view, right? In order for him to be a full functioning person, that rigid point of view needs to come from a place. To a lesser extent than that softer, more nurturing point of view needs to come from somewhere else. But you're saying that most of those nurturing, sort of less rigid points of view help you more than those rigid points of view. Let's take the man-woman shit out of it, right? Because
I got the rigid points of views too.
Right, you got them, but it serves you better with those nurturing. You got more gain, right, from those nurturing points of view than you did from the rigid points of view. And I'm pretty sure the rigid points of view served you, whatever they were. You know what I'm saying?
And those rigid points of view, I think, were more natural to my personality.
But and that's not necessarily to your gender. That's just to your personality.
Right.
Right.
So exactly.
Okay.
And so I think there's a story about woman's contribution to a man being a man that I want to make sure that I highlight, especially since it's one that has been more of a just as much as a positive force in my development as the man.
Right. But I think we want, okay, let me take one. You want to tell that story first?
Say that again.
You want to tell that story first, or you want me to?
No, I thought, yeah, no, go ahead.
So, with my sons, and I've had those types of conversations before, only a man can teach a man how to be whatever. I think that what that boils down to, that there are certain perspectives that serve them in certain ways that can only come from someone who has that experience, right? That could be, it could be a woman, it could be the mother or the father, or a man or a woman, right? It depends on whether they have those experiences. Generally, there are kinds of perspectives that come from a man coming up through this time, especially a black man coming up through this time and these events and all the things they've been through, that gives them a certain perspective that they can pass to their children, right? I'm trying to take the gender thing out of it to help us from what we've been talking about. For example, my sons, I try to teach them that no one will do for you, you have to do for yourself in terms of your personal development. You're accountable and responsible for your personal. If you want to achieve this thing, you have to be accountable for achieving that thing, right? You can't wait for anybody to come take you to do this. You can't sit back and think that thing is gonna fall in your lap. It's not gonna happen. If you want it, you have to get up and move towards it. And what we talk about, as you move towards it, there are going to be things and people that will come into your life that will help you along that path, right? I think that I would tell that to my daughters like I would to my son. I mean, I think that has traditionally been this sort of male, sort of, give you some game. If you got to get out and get it, you can get yours. You know what I'm saying? But I think that that's just an accountability piece. Right? In terms of I think there's a nurturing, because I can be a little like, get up and get it done. I don't care about none. I don't care about your foot hurting. I don't care about that. But there's a nurturing piece that says, hey, okay, you hurt your foot. Let me wrap that up for you. You know what I'm saying? Let me put something on it. Let me make sure you're good. Let me make sure you're just wrapped up. There's that nurturing piece of it that needs that balance, right? Whether that's male or female is not necessarily, you know what I'm saying? Not necessarily the piece. The piece is that both of those things need to work in conjunction. So now he knows that if I want something, I gotta go out and get it. But also, if I twist my foot, I need to take care of it. I got a means that I can take care of this thing. You know what I'm saying? I also teach him how to be empathetic to other people. Hey man, be cool. If you see somebody that needs some help, help them. If you see somebody that's being treated a certain way, pushed around, you step in. That's who you are, right? So, all that to say that you're coming up, there are things that you got from that rigid piece, you know what I'm saying? Right or wrong, whatever it is, right? But you feel like that the thing that serves you better was coming from somewhere else. But that's not necessarily man stuff.
I think it's I think it's the perspectives that man and woman bring. It's like,
but do you think that those are male and female perspectives?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that, like, if you want that thing, you got to go to that thing.
Right.
That's not a male or female perspective.
Right.
That's human perspective.
Yes.
So that's not an example as what I'm.
Okay.
Mine is more of there's how you think you show up and how you actually show up.
Okay.
As an example of what the perspective is.
Right.
So we walk around thinking we show up a certain way as a man.
Right.
Women will tell you how you showing up. So my daddy can tell me how to show up, but my mama gonna tell me how I'm actually showing up. And so I can have all the intentions in the world, but if my daddy is telling me to show up from a male perspective with this male energy, I have to also factor in my mother's analysis of that by her saying, this is how you really showing up, baby.
But do you think that analysis that comes from your mother is based on the fact that you're around her more? Like, do you think that if you're around your dad more, when you showed up and it wasn't how he wanted you or instructed you to show up, that he'd be like, you ain't showing up the right way?
Nah, because this is one of the differences between me and most dudes is that when women talk, bro, I listen.
Right.
I always have. I am one of them kind of dudes to where I sit down as a student. But I don't enter rooms with women with my glass full. I come in to be filled.
But that is from your experiences, not necessarily because they're women.
It is It's been from women. Well, that's just how. Well, hold on, let me
take a second. Because women traditionally in your life have been people who's giving you game on how you're moving, whether that is moving right, wrong, or whatever it is that you need to hear. That has traditionally come from.
But I had to listen.
Right, of course.
That's what I'm saying. Most dudes don't listen.
That's because that's not traditionally where that game came from for them.
Well, how would they know if they wasn't listening? But this is my point.
Okay.
Like, if you don't know, you don't know. So like if you the kind of motherfucker that just rejects information because it's coming from a woman, she could be giving you the winning lottery numbers. But if you ain't listening. But
they reject that information because of what has been put in them from somebody.
But
and you receive that information because of how it's been presented to you by somebody.
Maybe, but I guess why you do it or don't do it isn't nearly as important as the opportunity that exists. I feel so. Why the point that I'm trying to make is not why we don't listen, but the opportunity, the value of the woman's perspective.
But I don't think it is a woman's perspective because they're women. I think we need to come out of thinking that this perspective is woman's perspective and it's just a valuable person's perspective.
So being a woman in the world has value in the same way that being black in this world and having a perspective as value. Okay. So I'm black, bro. If somebody came to me and told me they don't see color, fuck you. Right. That's bullshit. You can't tell me that I don't see that my color doesn't have value because I live in a world where racism exists. Right. And for me to get to where I am in spite of my motherfucking color, for you to not acknowledge that, to say that has no value, is let me rephrase it. It would be short-sighted on your part to do that. Yes. So women having value, women having the perspective because they're a woman is valuable because of the world that we live in. So I assign in the same way, if I was sitting there, I'll just say that. So women have a perspective because they are a woman. Not because they have more or less value, but because they are a woman.
But explain that piece to me. Like, if we're saying,
do you have a perspective because you are black?
Of course.
And all of the things that come along with the struggle of being black.
Of course.
Than a woman does.
Of course.
So that's exactly why.
But what I'm saying is, if we're speaking in terms of removing this gender piece.
I can't remove the gender piece.
As a woman, as a man, like, how would you define a woman as it pertains to their value? People have value. Everybody you talk to, whether woman or man, their experience as a woman has value, of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. Your first teacher that you ever had was a woman. So their value, they have their, but not because they're women, because they're people.
They have value. A woman has value because she's a woman in comparison to a man. So when I am saying that my mother has a perspective that my father doesn't,
Absolutely.
Because she's a woman.
Because she's a different human being, but yes, because she's a woman too.
In the same way that you have a different perspective as a white man because you're black.
Right.
So,
yes.
So that's where the value comes in. When you're saying so you asked the question, how do you, I can't remember what the specific question was, but it was like, she has value because she's a person.
Yes.
But she also has value because she's a woman.
Yes.
So I'm speaking to the fact that she's a woman.
Her perspective as a woman.
That's what I've just been saying.
All right. I thought you would.
No.
I thought you were saying that her value is based on her being a woman, not for her being a person with the perspective of a woman.
No, we're splitting hairs.
No. It's not splitting hairs.
No, because it women, because we started with saying that women have a role. I was starting with the notion that women have a role in shaping a man being a man.
But what is a man though?
Like in terms of, because I was speaking in these broad terms about a man can't teach a man how to be a man except a man.
A woman has a role in teaching a male child how to be a solid individual. Anybody can be a solid individual. The game that she gives him, she would also give to her daughter, or should. That doesn't happen, but that game should be equally distributed among both.
So the perspective, so let me speak from my terms, so we can go to another topic. There is the way an adult male moves, and then there's the way the adult male is perceived.
Okay.
When a man is generally talking to a man about being a man, in these broad terms.
Such as, give me an example.
What the definition of a man, like when we were talking about like man. Like,
but
like
what would you tell a man on how to be
so
a
when
man?
They, so when
like
I say,
what example would you give?
I'm using these broad terms. So like when I was saying, like only a man can teach a man how to be a man. We've heard those before. Right?
Absolutely.
So I'm speaking broadly as the definition of that without going into the specifics. Because if a man is listening to this, I know that he's heard that before.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but the answers are going to be different for everybody. But we've heard it before.
Yes.
And I'm speaking to the notion of women having value in it too.
Yes.
And participating.
Yes.
That's what I'm speaking of.
Yes.
And because they're women, they have that value. Because men are showing up thinking that they're one thing. And there is another group with a different type of energy that is interpreting and observing how they show up in a very different way. And when men are growing up, there's value in that perspective because it offers balance to both sides.
Yes.
Because rarely are the men who we're teaching, rarely are the men who's teaching us, they probably didn't have that analysis. They probably didn't see that because they probably were told the same thing we was. Only a man can teach a man how to be a man.
Yes.
So they're just repeating what they were told, and they really haven't been seeing it show up in that way.
So,
and I think
do you think that a man can teach a man how to be a man, but a woman can know whether you're showing up in the way that you think that you're showing up as a man? Do you think both of those things are true? So if I'm saying, let's just say that we believe that a man has to teach a young boy how to grow into a man, give him man game, right? But a woman has to tell him whether he's utilizing that game properly.
A part of that's a part of it, I think.
Like, because for example, like if I teach you how to tie a tie, right? And then your mother comes along and says, "Oh, it's crooked, let me fix it a little bit." So I taught you how that game, right? But she made sure that you are showing up the way that you should show up.
Or she might be like, "Don't wear a tie on the first day, baby."
Baby?
Whatever it could be anything. It could be don't wear a red tie. It could be whatever it is. It's my experience, bro. Right? Like
they have to figure it out.
In my experience,
yes.
And I want to get back to what I was saying. I think the story that only a man can teach a man how to be a man is something that never sat right with me, and it was always something that did not ring true. And in my life, and as I have looked back, being the kind of dude who always seeked game, especially from women, and who found more of a natural association with the rigid part of it, I found that all of that was really more balanced out with the female energy and perspective added to that.
Yes.
And so because that is what really made me whole, I think, or more whole.
Yes.
But the story of the man can only teach a man how to be a man was something that that I felt left out that portion. It left it out.
Left out the female perspective on being a man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because like even when you look at the dudes, even when you listen to the dudes and ask them, I wonder how many of those definitions was colored by a woman's perspective. Think about that. Like, and maybe they would have broader terms if they were factoring in the female energy portion of it to balance it out. Maybe. I'm just saying, I don't know. I didn't ask any of them. But maybe.
Interesting.
Because if you ask a woman what's her definition of a man, they might be like, man, ain't none of that shit no definition.
but see that, so now we move into like energy and what that actually, how that manifests itself in whatever that definition, in not just defining what a man is, but also creating a whole person, right? There's a balance and I think it should be in both males and females of gain from a male perspective and also gain from a female perspective. It's a balance because the things that one can't see that the other can see.
Because even if you got a mom, like, let's say for you a man raising a daughter as an example, like you gonna give her like
all the game.
But see, like that's gonna make her a better. This is the
person.
Piece of it. Person.
Yes.
But just leaving her to be raised by her mom. Not to say you would do that. I'm just saying in terms of like when we talk about this stuff.
Right.
එක she'd be a better person and a better woman.
Yes. But
she'd be better in general. But we leave a lot of the I don't know, maybe not.
Listen, it has to be a balance. And you have to be aware of that balance. Like you can't, on both sides, you can't as a mother discard what a father or any, necessarily got to be his father. It could be any male influence in his life, what he brings. And in order to make a whole person whole, you both have to work together to give game, whether it's a boy or girl, male or female. Both have to work together and not discard or undermine the other's input in that game. So if you do teach you how to tie a tie, and then you come downstairs, the mother's like, well, let me fix it, or let me see what it looks like without the tie. Okay, you good. You know what I'm saying? Both of those things need to exist. And they can't exist like this. They have to exist like this.
Yeah. I think we've been going for
Man, we over.
What's over? Like how?
2:18.
Ooh. What kind of music you been listening? Well, hold on for a minute. We processed a lot, bro.
Yeah, we did.
I think even as we've been talking, there's been a lot of ambiguity in my mind in trying to process a lot of these concepts. And I think more than anything, I just hope that we're at least communicating the idea, man, that we're not challenging, because challenging might not be the best word.
Questions.
We're asking questions that to try to better understand our relationship with each other and how we interact with women and our daughters and our sons. And what are we helping to make better? What are we repeating?
Yeah.
But just having the question, man, because I feel like it's something The one thing that I'm very uncomfortable with doing is labeling the motherfucker, putting a definition on it.
Yep.
Because I do want to focus on just trying to be a better human being, man.
Yes.
And I think that includes not only what a lot of the traditional, definitions of a man is, but some of the quote unquote definitions of the female shit is too.
Yep.
And if I'm working to do that, and then women are working to do they shit on their side.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we might start being more in sync with one another.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, we're just coming from, that male point of view. Like, we're not even male, like our experiences. We're not, we can't speak on the experience of being a woman because that's not our experience. But this is our experiences, and we want to, like we've been saying since the first one, man, we want to ask these questions and have you ask yourself, like, what of this, these cultural and society labels, tags, and definitions, which ones serve you? Not your ego, not what you think, not these lofty goals and ideals that you hold true, but what really serves you. Like, if you're struggling, that doesn't make you less anything. It just makes you a person struggling. If you're coming through something, if you're making your way, navigating a thing, that doesn't make you less anything. You just are a person, man or woman, struggling, navigating, and you're not alone. And don't let any of these labels of people that people make up and write define, your experience.
Agreed. What music you been listening to?
Man, I'm back on my old bullshit, man. I fell into some Philadelphia soul stuff. I did listen to some soul from the playlist that you had from before. I did listen to some Cleo soul, and she is dope. Both of those are dope. And it's funny because it always reminds me of old stuff, and I end up going back to the old stuff. So that's where I've been, man. Archie Bell, it's dope. I started to listen to some of his old stuff. Yeah, started to listen to some of his like more album cut stuff, and it's dope. That's about it for me, man. How about you?
I was just on some Michael Henderson, bro.
Oh shit, where's he from? He's an LA cat, right?
I don't know, bro. It'd be hard for me to remember these motherfuckers' names.
He's dope.
So, yeah, because I've been doing that. I've been listening to Michael Henderson. Also been listening to some of that old listening playlist, dude. That process is the product playlist.
That joint is
fucking hard.
Yeah, it is.
And so is that Invisible Pain joint.
Yeah.
If you are not following us on Spotify and listening to these playlists, you are really doing yourself a disservice. Please, we're putting links to them. This one will probably be a little light because we'll just do like some Archie Bell and some Michael Henderson. But the other ones, man, have been really, really, really solid. And I've been, and you can put them on play and random and just listen. They good vibe setters.
It's a vibe, man.
Yeah,
it's definitely a vibe. And and it's funny how they and it might be because I'm so close to the podcast, but it reminds me of the conversations that we had. But it definitely is, man. They're solid, man. You did a hell of a job on that, Joe.
Yeah, that's up.
Yeah.
So the takeaway is,
man,
we don't know. It took us over 2 hours to say we don't. Okay, so we asked the question: what is a man? We don't know.
We don't know.
But we working to be dope human beings.
That's it.
And we hope that is enough for now.
Yeah.
And if not, fuck it.
We see y'all next week.
Much love.
Yep. Peace.